What if the person you trusted least was yourself? In the 2015 film They Look Like People, horror doesn't come from a ghost, a masked killer, or a monster hiding in the shadows. It comes from the slow, unbearable realization that your own mind might betray you, and that even the people who love you most might not be able to save you. Shot on a shoestring budget, the film strips away the traditional trappings of horror. There are no elaborate special effects, no monstrous costumes, and no cheap jump scares. Instead, it roots its terror in something far more insidious: the fear of your own mind turning against you. At its core, They Look Like People is a study of mental illness, trust, and the fragile bonds between people struggling not just with external threats, but with the hidden wars inside themselves. The story centers around Wyatt, a man who begins to believe that the people around him are being possessed and transformed into monstrous demons ready to bring on the apocalypse. He reconnects with his old friend Christian, and as their bond rekindles, Wyatt struggles to keep his increasingly terrifying visions and thoughts to himself. The brilliance of the film lies in how it never clearly confirms whether Wyatt's fears are real or imagined. We are trapped inside his mind, forced to experience the world as he sees it, with suspicion, fear, and an overwhelming sense of impending doom. One of the most potent ideas They Look Like People explores is the terror that comes when you can no longer trust yourself. Wyatt's paranoia isolates him not just from others, but from his own instincts. The film weaponizes this self-doubt, making the audience question every glance, every whispered voice, every moment of tension. Horror films traditionally teach us to trust the protagonist's gut, that if they sense danger, the danger must be real. But here, that trust becomes a weapon turned inward. Wyatt's journey is defined by a desperate internal tug-of-war. Should he act on what he perceives to be true, or should he suppress his instincts and risk letting the supposed monsters destroy the people he cares about? The fear isn't just external, it's existential. The more Wyatt trusts himself, the more he risks becoming the very thing he fears, a threat to those around him. His gradual unraveling is a chilling reminder that sometimes the greatest danger isn't what's lurking outside, but the betrayal that might come from within. Wyatt's friend Christian, too, faces a crisis of trust, but his struggle is directed outward. He wants to believe in his friend. He wants to help Wyatt, but he also fears what Wyatt might be capable of if his delusions take full hold. The tension between them becomes a delicate dance, with Christian extending trust even when it seems dangerous to do so, and Wyatt agonizing over whether he deserves it. Ultimately, They Look Like People portrays trust as something fragile and terrifying. Every glance, every slip of behavior threatens to shatter the delicate bond between Wyatt and Christian. Trust is never guaranteed. It must be chosen again and again, often against instinct, against fear, and against the overwhelming temptation to give up. If mental illness and trust form the skeletal structure of They Look Like People, then friendship and loneliness are its beating heart. The relationship between Wyatt and Christian is the emotional core of the movie, a tender, sometimes awkward bond between two men who each, in their own way, feel alone. Christian's loneliness is quieter but just as profound. He masks it with self-help mantras and bodybuilding, trying to become the version of himself he believes will be successful and desirable. His cheerful front cracks only occasionally, revealing deep-seated insecurities and a gnawing sense of failure. Wyatt, meanwhile, wears his loneliness like a shroud. Haunted by memories, by past relationships, and by his crumbling perception of reality, he moves through the world like a ghost. Both men are grappling with the aftermath of broken relationships. Christian and Wyatt have each recently broken off engagements, carrying the wounds of abandonment, regret, and loneliness into their reunion. Their shared emotional trauma intensifies the stakes of their friendship. They are not just two old friends reconnecting. They are two deeply wounded people clinging to the hope that someone still sees them as worth saving. Their friendship offers them both a fleeting glimpse of connection and salvation. In Christian, Wyatt sees someone who might ground him, someone who believes in him even when he can barely believe in himself. In Wyatt, Christian finds a reminder of simpler times where he can be himself and go back to, before the pressures of adulthood and self-image took their toll. But the film doesn't sentimentalize the bond between Wyatt and Christian. They Look Like People is painfully aware that friendship, no matter how deep, is not a cure. It can't erase the fractures already inside a person. Sometimes, it can only hold space for them, offering understanding, forgiveness, and faith, even when fear and uncertainty loom large. In the film's climactic moments, as Wyatt prepares to finally act on his delusions that demons are taking over the world, Christian's unwavering trust, his refusal to see his friend as a monster, becomes an act of radical, almost reckless compassion. It's a moment that redefines the film's slow burn horror not as a descent into violence, but as a desperate reaching for hope, for connection, for mercy. In the end, They Look Like People reveals that the true terror isn't monsters hiding among us. It's the possibility that the people we love, the people we trust, even ourselves, might not be able to hold back the darkness when it comes. Yet it's also, paradoxically, a film about hope. The hope that trust, imperfect as it is, might be enough to save us from the worst parts of ourselves. Perry Blackshear crafted not just a frightening film, but a deeply human one. A horror story that understands that even in the deepest paranoia, even in the loneliest places, the simple act of choosing to trust someone can be the most courageous and the most terrifying thing of all.